Someone punches you on the nose, find it quite difficult to breathe, it's going to disorientate you, and it's going to make it really hard for you to defend yourself. If someone wants to punch you, you put your hand where the target or the landing of the punch will be. The target's the nose, he wants to land on my nose, so therefore if I put my hands in front of my nose, or my jaw, it makes it a lot harder for him to land a punch on my nose or on my jaw. Don't have your hands to the side and wide and open. This is great for dealing with a haymaker, one, boom, that's great for that, but it doesn't have the protection or the versatility to cover the line of your face, bang. So what you want to avoid is the ability for someone to go bang, to punch straight through and catch you straight on the nose. Now there's going to be two types of straight blows that you need to worry about. What we call a stiff punch that comes forward and lands, and then a punch that snaps back, draws back quickly. If Nick throws a left punch and it's straight, I don't want to push my hands on the inside of his punch. The reason being is that if I try to put my hand on the inside to block, parry or move it, I'm leaving myself open for the check of the other arm. And likewise, if he punches with the other one, I don't want to cross the center. So we call it crossing the center. You never want to go across it, essentially. But what you can do is you can divert the line of attack and put your hand on the outside with the opposite arm. So in this case, it's the left arm, and I'm lifting my left arm to the outside. So now when he throws another punch, whether it be a straight punch or a looping punch, let's just say it is, I'm always on the inside of this strike. Now it's not always easy to get on the outside of a strike, because sometimes when people punch straight, they don't punch straight down the middle to your center line. What they do is they punch slightly wider but straight. So this is where the other hand comes into effect. What you do is you deflect it by parrying it past. As the punch is coming in, I'm going to use the backhand and parry it past me. So essentially it becomes this, where you're slipping, lifting. So I'll change the angle a little bit. So if you watch, I'm parrying it past, and then this hand, the left hand, weaves up and it comes back. Keep the hand on the head. Every time the hand is pressed on the head, it gives the arm some stability. Bend your knees for me, Nick. Okay. It gives the arm some stability. So every time the hand is on the head, it gives it some stability, which basically means that any pressure that goes on the arm, okay, can be supported by the structure of the body. So the arm is solid here. This arm is essentially cupping and holding the fist. So now if I'm pushing, Nick is solid here because he's covering his head, and this hand is gripping the arm. If Nick wants to drive his hand back, it's harder, but not impossible. Pull your hand back, rip it out. He can pull it out, but the point is that, do it again, is that now allows me, bang, to fill and occupy the space, or to contract into the space and cover and protect myself. Or that gives me the option, okay, if he's pulling his hand back, boom, to make space. But my preference, as always, is to go in and control that space. If he throws a cross, you parry it past you exactly the same, and then you salute and fix your hand to your head exactly the same, keeping your elbows in. Again, as always, you want to close this space. You don't want the space open. The more space, the more danger. So if you throw a punch, Nick, throw the punch, he throws it into that space. People generally will hit into the spaces that your limbs provide, bang, to protect you. So the tighter that space, the better. Okay, remember, we don't have boxing gloves. This isn't a boxing match. You don't have that protection. So you have to keep this as tight as possible. Tuck the elbows in. Again, elbows pointing downwards means that every time he tries to punch into my body, I've got sharp weapons where I could be striking with the point of my elbow into his fist, making it very difficult for him to stop or even cripple his hands. Okay, so from this position here, it's exactly the same. Now, if you feel that's still too complex a movement for you, you've always got the idea of just using one hand to parry it across your face. So if he throws a punch, you can simply just move it across. That's the simplest idea that you have. The main thing is that when he throws another straight punch, is that you don't push it away from it and create the space between your hands and your face. The greater the space between here and here, the greater the opportunity, bang, and the more feasibility he has to change the strike and hit around. So can I punch you, Nick, so I can show what I mean? Yeah. If Nick parries away, he creates a space here, bang, which allows me to loop. So whenever you're dealing with any type of punch, and especially straight punches, you want to keep the hand in your center towards and close to your face. The closer, the better. If you throw your hands out, what you're essentially doing is creating or giving them what they want, an opportunity to hit you. So always keep it tight, but don't oversell the center. That's the most important thing. So now that we understand where to put your hands on the outside, one way or the other, we also have to consider whether the person's snapping their punch back or leaving it forward as a stiff punch. Now, sometimes people will snap their hand or they'll deliver a solid, straight punch. Now, either way, there's an option. If the person's hitting with a heavy punch, the first option would be the best one to cover. But if they're snapping the punch, the reality is that this may not work, but the park, and this is the reason why we're doing the slap, redivert, and the cover, because this covers all eventualities. If the person throws that punch and snaps it back, and I don't get the chance to get this up, it doesn't matter, because as he snaps it and he throws a second punch, the arm is still there. Can you see? So it's a system of defending yourself that works really well against someone who's snapping the hand back or leaving it forward or snapping it back and changing the angle of the punch. So essentially, every time he covers, you're trying to parry and get this hand up. So parry, which means get it across you, get this hand up, and it covers both options. It works, but the best way to practice really is to try to get someone to throw their hand up, and you keep your hand, as I said, in your center in front of your face.